Welcome back to the channel. It is time for the much anticipated nose install. It's only taken me about 32 episodes to get to this point, but it was well worth the wait because look at that. It's beautiful. Now, if you're interested in this kind of restoration content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel because against all odds, we upload new episodes every Wednesday and Sunday. But for now, let's get right into the work.
Oh wait, you had to get down a little bit. Sorry.
Now, there are episodes on the channel covering all of this in detail, but for those of you who just found this channel, I'll give you guys a little bit of a recap. The water leaking in through my nose was so bad, it completely rotted out my inner Valence. Went ahead and bought a new one. I installed it with panel bond. I got a lot of hate for the panel bond, but do you think I care? No, I don't, because it came out great. As for this inner nose piece, I didn't want to spend the 400 bucks or whatever it was to buy it, so I welded some holes shut, got rid of the rust, treated it, and then covered in some epoxy primer. At this point, it was looking pretty good. My new nose came in. It was a beautiful sight to see, and then it sat on my bus for the next 6 months. Now you know what time it is. It's time to get rid of all this transport primer. I do have an episode on the channel about using aircraft stripper, so make sure to check that out. For now, let's get all this paint off. Now, if you know anything about anything, you know that the quality of your work is determined by the amount of prep work that you do. So I think I spent the next 4 hours fitting this panel, taking it off, fitting it again, taking it off. I used everything from straps to clamps to whatever I could find in order to make sure I had the perfect fit before I went ahead and committed to installing it, because we all know commitment is a very difficult thing. It's a scary thing, so make sure that if you're doing this, you check your fit. Hashtag check your fit. Don't forget to leave a comment down below saying hashtag check your fit. And subscribe to the channel. It's a great channel. Overnight, I left some aircraft stripper on the bumper because I figured if I'm going to spray the entire front in epoxy, I might as well get the bumper down to bare metal so I get an ideal finish. Now it was time for prep work on the inner part of the nose, because when I install it, I want to make sure that the inside is completely coated in epoxy primer. Now, epoxy primer will not adhere to smooth metal, so you have to make sure to sand it down with some good heavy grit to make sure you have that surface for that mechanical bond. I have an episode on preparing metal for painting with epoxy primer, you can check that out. Now, let's get this one painted. The next day, after the final test fit, it was time to commit. True commitment. It might have taken a little bit of liquid courage, but it was time to get all these spot welds welded. As you can see, I have all of it cleaned up to bare metal. Wait, did I say welded? I'm in panel bond. Yes, you heard me. Panel bond. Yeah, take that, haters. Take that, panel bond haters. I don't know. In my opinion, if maybe if VW had this stuff back then, that maybe this is how they would have done it. Because obviously, it was very prone to rust. And the thing is, whenever you have two metal surfaces clamping, hugging each other, it's very likely that rust will form between them, especially considering that I was not able to get all the old rust out. I did neutralize it with OSPO, but there's still like some black pitting, and once I welded it together, I thought maybe that rust will come back to life and transfer onto my new piece. But with the panel bond, it completely insulates the two pieces of metal from each other. And it's really strong stuff. Look up the technical data sheets. We look at that wonderful assortment of clamps. And yes, I did use every clamp within a 1 mile radius of my garage. And hopefully it's gonna work. I think it'll be fine. This lip right here needs to be folded around on both sides, so using a couple different techniques from hammer and dolly to a clamp, I slowly worked my way around and folded it back. Finally, it came time to test fit the door and see how everything lined up. Now, thankfully, I have a lot of experience installing this door, so I'm able to install it on my own. And once it was installed, everything was lining up just right. Just so nice. I'm so happy. I didn't think it would look this good. Now, we'll need to be straightened out a little bit more, but I think it's gonna work out. I haven't quite figured out how to install the driver's side door due to the rotisserie arm being in the way, but I'm sure I'll figure something out. Unfortunately, we are running out of time for this episode, and there is a bit of welding to do, so this will be a part 1 of the part 2. And in part 2, you should be seeing me welding everything up, welding everything shut, painting everything with epoxy primer, and finally, completing the new nose install. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.